Is Rafael Cuomo. I am an associate professor at the UC San Diego School of Medicine. I'm a clinical researcher myself, and I teach several courses in the program, as well as being as part of the academic leadership for the program. So I'll go ahead and get started with the slides. So this is an information session for the Master of Advanced Studies in Clinical Research at UC San Diego School of Medicine. Next slide, please. All right, so the objective of this program is, we have several objectives. A key one is to provide training in the methods and techniques of clinical research, including those methods and techniques which are applicable to doing patient-oriented research, such as clinical trials, epidemiological studies, such as the observational studies, the cohort and case control and so forth, other kind of studies, designs that are observational, and outcomes research, which intersects with the prior two categories, but also involves specific kinds of study designs and things like health economics and outcomes research. We also aim to develop an institutional environment for improved interaction of trainees with established clinical investigators to foster mentoring and career development. So as part of this program, students have an opportunity to interact with established clinical researchers and to carry out their own studies. And I'll get a little bit more into that in the presentation today. We aim to provide a degree program in clinical research that is set up by faculty at the UC San Diego School of Medicine and is offered by the UC San Diego School of Medicine, but in conjunction and with a lot of support from other departments and divisions as well, including the graduate division and the extended studies and public programs division. Next slide, please. So the true intended audience of this program is an individual with a background in the sciences who wishes to use that background in order to advance medical science. So this may include individuals who are already doing biomedical science, who are doing clinical research in, say, the pharmaceutical or biotech industries. We have had several clinicians go through our program including physicians, dentists, pharmacists, and others as well. We've had academic and research nurses in our programs. Our program has been very attractive over the years for international physicians who wish to come here to get this degree, as well as current medical students who are taking a gap year from medical school to get this master's degree in clinical research. We also have had a number of and continue to have a lot of interest from medical residents and fellows, both from UC San Diego, who practice at UC San Diego as well as elsewhere. And we have had several students who have recently finished their undergraduate programs in a biomedical science. The asterisk there is to note that that we do want to see that those individuals who have just recently finished an undergraduate program have had some exposure to research, whether that is during their undergraduate program or after. We want to see some that have had some exposure to research. But the recently graduated undergrads who we have had come through the program have been fantastic and have done very well and have gone on to make major accomplishments. And so we are very interested in attracting talented, recently graduated undergrads into the program. Next slide, please. And so what we want to endeavor to facilitate in the students in the program is a broad set of research skills, all of which is really necessary in order to obtain adequate graduate level mastery of clinical research. So it's a broad skill set that you need in order to do this, in order to do clinical research well. So one of those things is to adequately be able to understand the clinical problem, the epidemiology of the problem, its pathophysiology of relevant diseases, and the current therapies used to treat those diseases. And in the understanding of all of those elements of the problem, you are able to identify gaps in the knowledge of a disease, its treatment, its diagnosis, its prevention. And in understanding what the gap is, because you're able to adequately analyze the problem, we want you to be able to design a study that fills that gap. Right. So whether it's an interventional study, an experimental study like a trial, or an observational study using existing data or a prospective study that with prospective data collection, it is a study that endeavors to fill the existing gap in our understanding. In order to do this adequately, you need adequate data management skills. So working with databases and data sets and having familiarity enough with that, right? Including techniques related to data quality assessment and also statistical analysis that would have you objectively ascertain the patterns in the data and derive from those patterns conclusions which would be able to fill existing gaps in medical science. We want you to be able to do this in an ethical manner, right? To conduct trials and experimental studies on patients in ethical ways and that are consistent with regulatory guidelines. And so we teach you those as well as practical skills and things like leadership and budgeting and project management, so that you have practical know-how such that in addition to understanding the science and being able to work with data and so forth, you're able to lead a team that can fulfill the aims of a project. And in so going through the program, you also get a faculty mentor to work with you one-on-one on developing those skills also outside of the classroom. Next slide, please. So we offer a variety of courses in the program, some of which are core courses that are required and mandatory in order to obtain the degree, and others which are elective. You can choose among a set of them. So some of the core courses we offer are here. So we have a two-course series in professional development, one of which is on personal development and coaching, which you learn, about your own leadership style and how you can lead a team of researchers to carry out objectives effectively. And another professional development course is on project management and budgeting, where you learn how to adequately take project goals and then see them through to completion, as well as the budgeting component of the financial component of the specific research project. We have two core series in epidemiology, in which you learn about observational study design, such as cohort studies, case control studies, cross-sectional studies, and their application to specific domains of medicine. We have a two-core series in patient-oriented research, which covers things like clinical trials and other experimental study designs, as well as the ethical components of doing those experimental studies on patients, as well as the regulatory knowledge consistent with the trials that would be needed, for example, to approve new medicines. We have a two-course series in biostatistics, which goes from the basic of descriptives and comparisons of means and proportions, all the way to linear and logistic regression modeling and other kinds of predictive analyses beyond logistic regression, and also Cox proportional models and survival analysis, and the corresponding statistics and figures that come out of those analyses. We have a required course in translational research fundamentals, which teaches you how to understand the findings that exist for basic research, basic biomechanical research, and take those findings and translate them into research projects that would be beneficial at the bedside. So the bench to bedside translation. We have a required course in health services research, which teaches you about the healthcare system, about insurance types in the United States, as well as the health economics and health finance go into things like physician reimbursement. That's all part of the health services research course. We have a required course in scientific communication skills, in which you will learn how to best, take the findings that you have worked so hard to get from your research studies and effectively disseminate them to the public and to other kinds of stakeholders, such as clinicians and policymakers. We have a required course in data management and informatics, which teaches you how to work professionally with databases, with clinical databases and clinical records, and how to derive important insights that advance medical science from these data. And as part of that course, you get access to actual real-world patient data for millions of patients that have been seen in UC San Diego Health, and you're able to do actual studies and analyses on real patient data. As part of these core courses, you learn the R programming, R program that will enable you to take data and do statistical analyses and derive statistics and conclusions from the patterns in the data, as well as the SQL, the SQL programming language, which allows you to work professionally with large databases. And that's part of the data management course. We offer sets of courses in elective categories. So we have an advanced statistics elective. You have to choose two of the advanced statistics courses. Some of them are listed here. One example is the machine learning and predictive analytics course, which we offer to fill the advanced 2 units of the advanced statistics electives, as well as others as well. We have a set of courses that fulfill the experiential learning elective requirement, which is intended to convey the day-to-day experience of being a clinical researcher. So these are topical courses in things like qualitative research and social network analysis, but they still, as in addition to teaching you that topic, are intended to convey what it's like to be a clinical researcher. So I'll go on now to talk about the independent study project in the next slide. So the independent study project is your master's thesis. It is a research project in which that you carry out on real data and do actual analysis and write up an actual manuscript for that can be published, and it is a requirement for the degree. So as part of this degree, not only will you take those classes which teach you how to do research, right? And in those classes, you don't just learn those concepts in the abstract, you also do apply that knowledge in class assignments and class exercises. But in addition to that, throughout the entirety of the program, you're taking what you've learned, all those technical skills you've learned, all those conceptual skills and abstract information, and applying it to actually solving a real medical problem, a real gap in the medical science. And so you do this under the guidance of a mentor who teaches you about how to apply those techniques in that specific area of medicine. But it is your project, right? It is addressing your own research interests, using data that have already been collected, and taking those data and deriving important conclusions that advance medical science in this area that personally interests you. Next slide, please. So as part of the program, you're also required to do a presentation at a conference that we run called the Clinical Research Symposium, which is an annual conference in which students present posters that show what they found from their research, and may also do an oral presentation as well in front of an audience to relay what they have found as part of their research. I note that on our website, we have a page specific to the Clinical Research Symposium, which has pictures from all the symposia that we've run, as well as videos of students that have done oral presentations. They're very nice videos. I highly recommend going to the website and seeing some of the research that has been done by our students in the past. Next slide, please. So with regard to career development, we teach a variety of very attractive skills as part of this program. So our programming, SQL programming, familiarity with databases and study designs, regulatory knowledge, and various different kinds of skill sets across all of our courses are together they make a very, very attractive candidate for a lot of positions, and a lot of employers are looking for individuals with these skill sets. And so our graduates have gone on to, a number of different areas and institutions and done amazing clinical research. That includes the private sector and academia listed here, as well as government, for example, where our students have also made valuable contributions. So in the private sector, pharma, biotech, very interested in the kind of skill sets that we teach, examples of roles are clinical research managers, clinical data managers. From Biocom, the 2023 average San Diego salary in this area was 163,177. So that was last year's, and that's been on an upward trajectory over the years. And I suspect that will continue to be the case. We have roughly 2,000 life science establishments in San Diego. San Diego's has is a very concentrated hub of pharma and biotech companies, and of course they are looking for individuals who can fill their needs. San Diego was ranked #1 in fastest income growth a little while ago, and remains a very attractive destination with regard to personal compensation. In academia, UCSD itself UCSD is a major institution in this region, and it was ranked #5 nationwide for research funding a little while ago at 1.64 billion. So that was a little while ago, and that has since grown. UCSD has remained extremely competitive, and continues to rank in the highest tier with regard to research. And the School of Medicine specifically with regard to medical research. So we have been recognized nationally, globally for our our high caliber of research expertise and output. We have been in the top 10 institutions receiving NIH funding. This is an old stat. In 2018, it was 180 million across 383 funding awards, but of course remains among the top institutions for NIH for funding from the National Institutes of Health. Next slide, please. So some examples of titles that some of our graduates hold are clinical research scientist, director of clinical operations, vice president, medical director of clinical research, director of clinical research, global trial manager, international clinical project manager, and clinical trial manager. Just some examples, particularly in the private sector in academia. Our graduates hold titles like this as well, although they are less varied. These are generally private sector titles. Next slide, please. So the requirements to apply for this program, you do not need to have taken the GRE or GMAT or any testing in order to apply. You do need to have had a bachelor's degree or are going to have that by the time you start the program. A GPA of at least 3.0 is highly desired. We would want you to have some work or relevant experience, even if it's not paid employment. If you've done research in a lab as part of your undergraduate experience, for example, and that's something that we really want to see. You are required to write a statement of purpose to apply to the program, to submit a resume or CV. If you are an international applicant, you will need to submit a TOEFL or IELTS showing English language proficiency, and you will need to have submitted 3 letters of recommendation as part of your application. Next slide, please. So there are 2 phases of study available to you. You can choose a 1-year track or a 2-year track. In the 1-year track, you will take about 4 to 6 courses per quarter. This will vary. In the 24-month track, you will take 2 or 3 courses per quarter. You do not have to pay double if you take the 2-year track because you pay per unit in this program. So it's the same total unit cost for the degree, regardless of how long it takes you. Although I note that the 12-month pace of study is our more popular option because students are able to get through the program and get their degree quickly and then start applying to jobs or going on to other endeavors. Next slide, please. So with regard to logistics, I know that the location was at the University City Center. This is a nice location for our classes. It's a little bit off the typical, right. It's not directly on the med school campus, but I know that it is a very nice location because we don't have to compete for parking. Parking at UC San Diego is a bit of a nightmare. And so having this location set up for us and available for us and professionally managed as well is very nice and gives us some additional advantages over typical programs at UC San Diego. We have some classes which are remote. Most of our classes, almost all of our classes are in person, although some of those classes may have some remote classes, right? So a typical class has uh, 10 sessions, 2 hours long over a 10-week period. And some of those 2 hour sessions may be done via Zoom remotely, but that will be at most four of the 10 sessions. We are required to have at least six of them in person, and many classes, such as some of the ones I teach, do the entire instruction in person. So that is some information about logistics. Application deadline currently is January 15th. So you have a little time to get your materials together. Next slide, please. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at clre@ucsd.edu. That is the fastest way to get a response to any question you may have, much faster than emailing any individual person. However, I note that the website clre.ucsd.edu is very likely to have the answer to whatever question you are asking. The curriculum page has quite a lot of information about the classes. There's a page about finances, which tells you more about, the financial details. And there are various other pages on the student webs on the program website that will that house a ton of information that will be very useful. And we also do have a LinkedIn site if you want to get any updates from the program about any events that we are doing, or what's going on in general with our program. We encourage you to follow our LinkedIn page, MAS in Clinical Research at UC San Diego School of Medicine. I think that's my last slide. I'll take any questions now.